Hello, grade 10s. Welcome to our topic of the day, the nitrogen cycle. Well, what about nitrogen? Nitrogen is a really important element in the structure of DNA and the structure of proteins. We use it to build our bodies, so do plants. In animals, nitrogen is one of the major elements involved in making muscles. Muscles are made of protein, so we need to be able to get nitrogen to build our muscles. In plants, nitrogen becomes part of the cell walls of plants. It is important for their growth and maintenance. The largest place we find nitrogen available to use is in the atmosphere in the form of N2. Nitrogen is a diatomic molecule. However, in this form, it's not accessible by either plants or animals. We can also find nitrogen in oceans, in the soil, and in waterways. So if basic nitrogen isn't available to plants or animals, how do we get to it? Well, there's three ways. There's nitrogen fixation, nitrification, and denitrification. These three processes are how nitrogen is cycled through the atmosphere, into the bodies of plants and animals, and through the ground and through waterways. The nitrogen cycle involves moving nitrogen from the air down into the ground, where it gets changed by bacteria or by the roots of special plants called legumes. These are things like peas and beans, or by other kinds of bacteria, and gets turned eventually into a chemical called a nitrate, which is a polyatomic ion that plants can use. Plants and animals, when they die, have that stored nitrogen in their bodies, and decomposers will recycle that nitrogen to be used over and over again. Let's look at each of these three ways separately. Nitrogen fixation is the first way, a most common way, that nitrogen from the air is fixed. In other words, it's put into a form that plants and animals can use. Plants use nitrogen in the form of nitrate or in the form of ammonia. There are three ways that nitrogen can be fixed into this nitrate or ammonium that plants can use and take into their bodies. One way is lightning. Lightning releases large amounts of electricity into the atmosphere. The nitrogen in the air, and 78% of our air is nitrogen, will react with the oxygen in the air to form nitrates. Nitrate ions rain down with the rain and feed the plants and allow them to grow. Another way that nitrogen can be taken from the air and put into the bodies of plants is through bacteria. Bacteria are essential for life on Earth. Bacteria in the soil can take nitrogen and turn it into nitrates or into ammonium, both of which can be used by plants. And you can also have bacteria in your water, which can be used by water-borne plants. Cyanobacteria are a blue-green color of bacteria that grow in the waters and provide nitrogen availability to plants. Nitrification is another process by which nitrogen in the air can be changed into a form usable by plants. This is a multi-step process. First, the nitrogen is converted into ammonium, the NH4 plus 1 ion. Then it's converted into nitrite, and finally into nitrate. Nitrate is the form that the plants are happy to use. Nitrates enter through the plant's root, and the plant will use them to build their body, to make the cells of its walls. When animals like herbivores, like cows or sheep or even us, eat plants, that nitrogen can now be used by our bodies. It's in a form that we can use to make proteins, to make muscles. Eventually, when plants die or when animals die, all that nitrogen has to be cycled back and given back to the environment. That process is called denitrification. Denitrification is usually performed by denitrifying bacteria. This picture here looks very similar to the picture that we had in our notes about the carbon cycle. You can see nitrogen is being cycled through the air, through water, and through the bodies of plants and animals. In the carbon cycle, our biggest store of carbon is under the ground. In the nitrogen cycle, our biggest store of nitrogen is in our atmosphere. In our next video, we're going to look at how nitrogen travels through these things, and especially how humans impact it. Going back to this screen, you can see that the human impact on nitrogen from industry, from burning fossil fuels in vehicles and airplanes, And all these areas that humans interfere with, including fertilizer usage, contributes and can affect the nitrogen cycle. We're also going to look at how humans impact other biogeochemical cycles. There is no specific task to do with this lesson. Please proceed on to the next set of notes.